I wanted to take a moment this morning just to share something that's been happening fairly recently with us as churches together, as leaders together, because I want to invite you to weigh it and to pray into it and to hold it with us. First of all, apologies for some people who've heard this a number of times now. I've been sharing it in a number of places, prayer and praise and members meetings and leaders meetings. So if you're hearing this for the third or fourth time, apologies, but let me just share with you. Some point after Easter this year, I had some time off and I was walking the dog. I wish I could say it was something more spiritual. I was prayer walking or something, but it was just a dog walk. And we were out walking. And it was one of those beautiful days where nothing major to get back for, so we just kept going, the dog and I. And so we went up to Castle Cork, because from where I live, you can walk up through Tongwynlais and head up that way. And I was thinking to myself, if I can go and get a selfie in front of Castle Cork, I will look like the fittest member of the family. And I'll have bragging rights for a while. So I headed up there. This was the only motivation I had. When I got there, some of you may know this, from the car park, there's a path that leads up onto the mountain. And you can either go right, which is, if we ever go that way, that's the way we normally go, because there's a tea rooms that you can get to. But this day, we got to the top of those steps and just decided to go left. And there was a clearing in the woods coming up. And so I went there and stopped there for a while. And I don't know if you ever get this, but suddenly there was a sense that God just wanted a moment with me, out of nowhere. And so I stopped, actually sat down because it was dry. The dog was very, very confused, but she sat down as well, and was just praying. And from where I was sat, I could see, I've never seen this view before, but in this spot, you can see Castle Cork, and from there you get the sense of the village beyond that, and then the villages beyond that, North Cardiff, etc. And I was just sat there, and I had this picture, and it was a picture of a dam, and this dam had loads of logs and twigs and stones and mud in it, but it was compact. It was really thick. And coming up to this dam, there was this water, powerful water, lapping up against it, but couldn't get through. I don't think of myself as an overly emotional person, but it was desperately sad. Really sad that this water was being blocked. So I sat there with that for a while, and then somebody came from the left of this picture and grabbed onto a branch and tried to start to move it. And when I say tried, it was sweat coming and tears and just effort. Nothing, just couldn't budge this thing at all. And then from the other side, someone came, same thing, tried to shift it. So that guy went, and a new person came, tried to shift it, nothing. Eventually gave up and went away. And then suddenly, all of these people came and leapt upon the top of this dam and start attacking it. And the thing doesn't just break, it bursts. And all of this water starts to flow down over the mountain, over the castle, into the villages. And the people who you might thought would be slightly annoyed about this in my vision are just so happy. There's high-fiving and laughing and just excitement that this water has begun to flow. And there was a tremendous sense that there was some sort of stronghold, there was some sort of blessing that God had been wanting to give to, I don't think it's a territorial thing, I think it's just this city, this area that was being held back somehow. So I walked home with the dog that day and just sort of held it. Just said, Lord, well, if that was from you and if there's something in that, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose the passion and the vivid sort of reality of it. And so I just carried it for a while. But I did think to myself, the minister from Einan Baptist in the village, Phil and I know each other pretty well. We've become good friends over the years. I thought, I must tell him, because I could basically see him from where I was sat, or his church, if you like. So we tried for a while to get together, and various things kept coming up. We couldn't do it. And then I had this text message from him, John, can we meet up? And so I said, yeah, when do you want to do that? He said, I don't suppose you're free tomorrow. And this miracle happened. Both our calendars collided and we could do it. And so I was walking over to see him, thinking, Lord, just if it's right, let me know, bring it up somehow. And we're talking away and we're catching up about kids and the state of the Welsh rugby team, all those kind of important topics that ministers talk about when they get together. And suddenly, he goes serious and he says to me, John, one of the reasons why I asked if you'd come and see me is the Lord's told me you've got something to tell me. And I thought to myself, it's not usual that I get quite a brisk slap across the face about doing it. So I shared with him what had happened and everything, how vulnerable you feel when you share these kind of things, how silly it sounds coming out, all of that. And as I'm talking, Phil's eyes are filling up with tears. And he said when he became pastor of the church, one of the things he did was to ask the church, what are the prophetic words that you're holding on to? And for years, the Lord has been speaking to them about a dam upon the mountain and water flowing for some reason over the castle and then into all the streets and houses. I was just blown away by that. Unbeknown to me, a couple of days later, he got a text message from somebody new to the church who'd been out on a prayer walk and said a very similar thing, that they'd stood in a spot in the village and had this sense of water filling up around their ankles and flowing and going. And so they were holding that. And so I said, well, we've got to pray into this together. I managed to speak to one of the regional team and shared it with them, and they said, would you share it with the Ministers' Fellowship? So I did, and Phil did as well. And then a pastor from Caerphilly came running up to me. He's usually a very laid-back, quiet guy, and said, for about 18 months, the churches in Caerphilly have been having messages about water flowing over the same mountain. I shared this at the prayer and praise. Someone came up to me afterwards and said, I had a picture a while ago of water flowing, bursting out of here, pushing us all out of the church, but we joined this water that was coming down the road. Do you think that could be relevant? I said, yes, I think that could be very, very relevant. So God seems to be speaking. One of the things I was hungry to do was to gather a bunch of leaders and to go and pray in that spot. And we did. I think it was about 10 different churches were represented. Some people I didn't even know were coming, that I've never met before, just wanted to get in on it and just came as well. And we stood together and prayed and confessed, God, so often we've gone on our own. We've tried to build our own thing and do our own thing. We've been so worried about whose name is on it or whatever it is. We just want to pray together just to release something. And it was an incredibly intense time, special time. I won't go into it all now, but an incredibly special sense of being surrounded by the atmosphere of heaven as we prayed together. One of the things we want to start doing as churches together is to gather together to worship and pray together. The more we spoke about that, the more we thought it's kind of crazy that we don't. Of all the things that we wonder, should we do that? Is it okay for churches to get together to pray over an area together? So we're going to try and do that together. And try and do it more together. But I pass it on to you because I want to invite you to hold it, to carry it, to, if you can do, make it part of your prayer regularly. God, whatever it is, just break it, release it, let it flow. One of the things that, as a leadership team, we've been praying into for a while is this new word, renew. It keeps coming up in various different places, in various different ways. That the Lord is wanting to renew us, refresh us in our love and our passion for Him, return the joy of serving the Lord to us in a fresh way and in a new way. And I think it's part of that, but I think this is bigger. So I'm going to ask us today if we can hold that before the Lord and if we can pray into that together. I wonder if you'd stand with me for just a moment.